Hello, welcome back to another review. Apologies, it's been a while since I've done a review on this channel. Basically, I've been really busy these last few weeks, going here, there and everywhere all around the country. I've been to see Oasis multiple times, and I've still got more to come next week. And then I will do a video. I know I've done one about Cardiff when I went to the first night in Cardiff, but I am going to do a video about all the nights I've attended, but I'll wait until I've finished, which will be next week when I've done them all. So yeah, that's exciting, but I'm back here with a video, another sort of Oasis related video. I'm a bit late with this one because I'm talking about this album here today. Liam Gallagher's MTV Unplugged album, which I believe its proper title is MTV Unplugged Live from Hull City Hall, I think. Came out in 2020, so apologies it's taken me this long to review it, but we're going to talk about it today because this is a very special album, it's a very special gig because I was at this gig. But yeah, we'll get into that now. This is my review of Liam Gallagher MTV Unplugged. So released on June 12th of 2020, Liam Gallagher's MTV Unplugged album was his second attempt at an MTV Unplugged gig. The first one was back in the 90s, but we'll touch on that more in a minute. To start with though, I will show you this copy of the album that I own. So this here is the front cover, folks, as you can probably tell. And as you can also probably tell, this is a signed copy by Liam. It was just off a website, I can't remember where I got it from, but Liam himself, well, he has obviously signed it, but he didn't give it to me, and I didn't give him it to sign, if that makes sense. But the artwork itself here, I've never really liked it, to be honest. I think it's a bit crap, to be honest. It'd have been better using a proper photo from the gig, because the venue itself was beautiful, but you can't tell that from this cover. So yeah, there's the front cover. So there's the back cover then, folks. As you can see, it's nothing spectacular, it's just a track listing and a picture of the crowd. Does the job, I suppose. So the album is also a gatefold. This is a panoramic shot of the crowd, but for some stupid reason they put this filter on it, which completely ruins the picture. That would be a stunning photo, that, if they hadn't put that stupid filter on, but as you can see, unfortunately, they have. So inside, folks, we have a poster, which I have not looked at for years. You probably can't see that. I'm going to put it sideways, though. Yeah, it's rubbish. I've cocked that up, but there's the poster. Which sits in there, and I'll show you the record itself. So there's the sleeve, side 1. That there is the personnel, and side 2, same thing, personnel is what that is, and the record itself here is just on black vinyl. So there you go. Ta-da! However, I'm pretty sure, I'm going to go and check, I do actually own a second copy of this, and I think it's a coloured vinyl variant, so I will quickly go and check it, and if it is, I will show you that now. This is my other copy of it, which is on this splatter vinyl, which I'll be honest is very pretty. Look at that. Hope you can see that okay, but that is very, very pretty. Side 1 and side 2. So there you go, that is all the copies of this album that I own, so back to me over there, talking about the album background. So Liam Gallagher and MTV Unplugged, this is a relationship that goes all the way back to his heyday in the 90s with Oasis. So if you somehow didn't know, I'm very surprised you're watching this video if you don't know this, but Oasis performed an MTV Unplugged in 1996, I think it was, and Liam was supposed to be with the band, he's the frontman of course, singing away, but at the very last minute, as they were pretty much about to go on stage, he backed out because he had a sore throat. So instead he went and sat up in the balcony and he heckled and shouted stuff at Noel, because Noel had to fill in and basically sing the entire set, including songs he'd never sung in public before to a mass audience. Anyway, I know there'd been occasions up until this point where Liam had walked off stage and Noel had filled in, but they were like just normal gigs. This was the first time where it was a televised gig that the whole world could see, where Noel was in the spotlight. And whether Liam did have a sore throat or not is disputed. A lot of people say he was hungover or he just couldn't be arsed doing it. But he maybe lived to regret that, because this was the first time Noel was put in the spotlight on a huge scale, and a lot of people argued he stole the show. Noel did a bloody good job filling in for Liam on that MTV Unplugged gig, and it was probably the first time he got a taste of what it was like to be truly in the spotlight, so I imagine Liam would live to regret that. But anyway, we'll fast forward into 2019, and Liam decided to redeem himself and do another MTV Unplugged gig. This time he did show up. Obviously he's now a solo artist by this stage. Although now he's back in Oasis, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, so this album was to support his second solo album, which was Why Me, Why Not. At the time when this was recorded in Hull, that album hadn't been released. That came out in September 2019. This was recorded August 2019. So all the stuff on here bar Once is, I'm pretty sure at the time it was unreleased from what I can remember. So I'll share with you now a little story, because as I've mentioned, I was at this gig August 3rd of 2019, 6 years ago. That makes me feel old because it only feels like a year or two ago this. But yeah, 6 years ago, pretty much to the day, the time of recording this, it's August 7th, so I really should have done this the other day and got it up on the anniversary. But yeah, special gig, very intimate gig, and it was also after this gig when I briefly met Liam. I got a poster, an MTV Unplugged poster as we were leaving, and I've got it signed. It's over there, if I remember, I'll edit it in and I'll show you it, the poster that's up on the wall there, signed by Liam after the gig. So yeah, that was good to meet him, very briefly, as did a lot of people after that gig, but at least it means I can say I've met him. Anyway, yes, this gig, the MTV Unplugged gig. So, like I say, as I've just mentioned, I was at this gig, and I'll keep banging on about that in this video, because it kind of gives me a special relationship with this album, because there's not many people who can buy this album and say they were at it. From what I can remember, it was at Hull City Hall, and it holds about 1,500 people, I think, off the top of my head. So it was a pretty intimate gig. It was one of those ones where you could pretty much stand anywhere in the venue and you'd have a good view of Liam. The venue itself was a beautiful building, but we couldn't use our phones. We couldn't film anything. Not that I probably would have done at that gig, but I'd love to have taken a picture inside the venue just to show how beautiful it was. But when we went in, our phones were put in these little bags and locked. We kept the bags with us. There's a few gigs that do this. I'm seeing Bob Dylan later in the year, and he does this as well. But this one was simply because it was being filmed, and they didn't want people putting it online before the actual TV show went out, which I think the TV show went out in September 2019. Don't know why the album came so much later, but yeah. So it was pretty cool. It was a weird experience in this day and age, being at a gig where no one is on their phone at all and everyone is just living in the moment. It's fantastic. Now, prior to Liam coming on the stage, a fella actually did come out from MTV to talk to the crowd and explain how it was going to work. So basically what he told us was Liam would come out, he'd do his songs, he'd do his set as normal, but there was a chance that if something went wrong, they would have to maybe stop the song halfway through and start it again, or they'd maybe get to the end of songs and have to finish them, start them again, or maybe we'd get to the end of the entire set and then Liam would have to come back out and do another song from earlier in the set. But none of that happened because Liam is evidently a pro and they nailed everything in one take. So yeah, that was cool, that it was just effectively a normal gig. There was no coming back out to do other songs, although that arguably I wouldn't have complained if we got Champagne Supernova more than once. Now 15 songs were performed that night. However, only 10 of them have been released. I'll get onto that in a minute, but 5 of them were left out. 4 of them solo songs, and 1 of them was a Bob Marley cover of Natural Mystic. Why they got left off, I don't know. I'll touch on that more in a minute, however. So as I said, the actual broadcast, the show itself, went out in September 2019, but this album didn't come out until June 2020. I think it was originally supposed to be April 2020, but it got delayed due to COVID. And it went straight in at #1, and it was the biggest selling album on vinyl in 2020, which is saying something because some pretty big albums came out in 2020, I think. So I've got to be honest with you here, I've got a really weird relationship with this album because I very rarely listen to it, and the actual TV broadcast of it, I have never watched the full thing back. I've seen clips of it and bits of it here and there, but I've never watched the full thing from start to finish. And this album, same thing, I very rarely listen to it because maybe I'm in a minority here, but because I was there, I like to remember it in my head how I seen it from my own perspective, if that makes sense. So where I was stood, I want to remember this gig from looking at the stage from that point in the room. I don't want to see it from like a professional camera from all over the room, panning around on Liam and stuff and up close. I'd rather remember it from where I was and the sounds that I could hear in that room and the feeling I had in that room. I want to remember it as a brilliant memory of one of the best nights of my life because it is one of the best gigs I've been to. So that's why I don't reach for this album that much, because I don't want it to tarnish that memory I have. I want to keep it fresh in my head. I also hate on this album the fact that the order of it, the running order of this album, is different to the order it was performed in. For example, Stand By Me on here comes 5th, is it? 5th. But on the actual night it was 14th, it was the second last song he did. So I hate the fact that they've fiddled on and moved songs around and stuff. And also I hate the fact that songs have been left off. Songs that have been left off from memory is Bold, Greedy Soul, For What It's Worth, Natural Mystic, and Why Me, Why Not. I think they're the 5 songs that got left off. No idea why. I do remember Bold was the second song he did, then he did Greedy Soul, then he did For What It's Worth. Then I think he did Natural Mystic, and then he did some Oasis ones, then he did New Songs. Why Me, Why Not, I think was the second new song he did actually. I think he did Now That I Found You first, and then he did Why Me, Why Not. Like I say, I have no idea why he left these off. It's never been discussed. I do know when he was singing Bold though, because I can remember him doing this. Every time he sang the chorus, instead of singing I've Been Bold, he kept singing I Love Hull. Why he did that, I have no idea. I mean, it's one of them things. It's like, first time, we're here, you're in Hull. But as he did it every single time, it was like, all right, this is wearing a bit thin now. Which brings me on to why this was in Hull. I should have said this earlier in the video. As you can see, I am still a professional. The reason why this is in Hull is because earlier in the year, in 2019, Noel was on tour in America. And he made a comment because someone in the crowd started heckling him about, he asked them where they're from and they said Hull. So then Noel said that Hull was a shithole. And he's not wrong. So Liam evidently decided to go and do this in Hull, I think just to spite Noel. I can't imagine Noel cared that much, but there we go. So yeah, that's why it's in Hull. Anyway, to come back to my original point, I'm not saying this is a bad album, because it's not. It's a great, great album. It's a great performance. It was a magical gig to be at. But I just don't listen to it that much because I want to remember it, how I experienced it that night. I don't want this to sort of re-influence how I heard it. And another thing that night was the crowd. The crowd was so loud. Whenever Liam sang an Oasis song, you couldn't really hear Liam in the band because the crowd were that loud. Now, they rightfully turned the crowd down on here because you don't want to listen to an album of a crowd singing. You want to hear Liam singing. But I want to remember being in that room and being in that crowd of people, if that makes sense. As great as Liam is on here. Yeah, that's how I want to remember it. I know I'm in a minority because there's not many people who can say they were there. But yeah, that kind of puts a different perspective for me in this album. Hope that all makes sense. Now, I didn't go to this gig alone. I did actually attend it with other people. Believe it or not, I do know people outside this room. I went with my brother James and my mate George. And because they were there and this was a special gig, shall we hear what they think? Take it away. Let's go with our kid first.
I can just remember the crowd was actually really loud. Obviously, with it being a small venue and 1,000 people obviously being in there. Yeah, the crowd were really loud and you couldn't really hear Liam as much. And I can just remember he kept going on at his sound guy, which at the end I'm sure he apologised and like thanked him and all that at the end. And what else? There was, oh yeah, obviously with the phones in the case, I've never seen that before. And I found it quite funny when obviously usually like people were going out for like a fag break or something. But people were just going out just to go on the phones, obviously to get the phones out the pouches and that and go on the phones. And then obviously just after the gig, we I remember there was like, because obviously there was a full orchestra there and that they were like, you could see like the violinists like coming out the side and that. So and then you could see like a crowd of people in the distance, which looked like obviously where like Liam and that were coming out. So we went round there and looked at. And then we waited for a bit. I can't remember what time. It was maybe just after 10 when the concert ended. I think Bonehead came out first. We saw him. And then I think we were waiting until like 11. I want to say 11. I don't know whether that's right or not. We waited until 11 to see if Liam was coming out. And if he wasn't, then we were just going to go. And he actually did come out. And he came out where I was standing. And like I was recording it, but like obviously my phone was in my left hand, and then I went to shake his hand. He shook my hand, and he said something like, "Oh, I appreciate it," blah blah blah. But I didn't get like that moment because I was literally getting pushed onto the barrier essentially, and yeah. So yeah, that was probably memories from the gig, and then poster behind us is of that night. I would probably say best song of the night was probably Cast No Shadow. I just think the crowd was great for that song. And then thoughts on the LP were, in fact, I would say, or the album, whatever, it was quite like what I've just said about the crowd and that. Like when you listen to it, you can't really hear the crowd well, I mean you can hear it, but it was a lot louder when we were there. Obviously you can hear Liam more on the album, which is going to be the case really, innit? But yeah, I don't really listen to it that much now. I did at the time. I can't really remember a lot about it. A lot of the songs that he did do live, he kind of, well, they weren't actually on the album. I was hoping like Boulder something was on the album, and even Natural Mystic, the Bob Marley cover, because I quite like Liam Gallagher doing that. But no, they weren't on, and they weren't in the right order. One when he did them either.
Cheers, Jimbo. Let's hear from Mr. Georgie Boy now. Sorry, I should have pointed out here just before George starts speaking to give you a little bit of context. This was the first gig I ever went to with George. It was the first time I ever properly met him. So, yeah, if you're wondering what he's talking about here, it's because it's the first time I met him. So, yeah. Now, go, George, go.
I just remember about a week before the concert, you put something on your story about MTV Unplugged Hull. I'd never met you at this point, but I did have you on Instagram. I knew of you, obviously, through friends, but I obviously had to reach out to you on that one and just ask what was MTV Unplugged Liam Gallagher all about. I obviously know what MTV Unplugged is with Nirvana and whatnot, but I had to ask you about that one because somehow I'd completely missed out on it. Once you'd explained, obviously it was sold out, it was a small venue, 1,000 capacity, so I didn't think much of it, but I always remember the gig was on the Saturday and Liam put something on his story on the Thursday night saying a handful of tickets was getting released on the Friday morning. I remember I just told my boss that I would work that Saturday and I was doing him a huge favour, and then I landed tickets on that Friday morning. I had no accommodation, I had no travel, and I had to find a way of getting from Carlisle to Hull. So obviously I had to reach out to you, bear in mind again, we'd never met in person properly. I asked you if you could give me a ride there. I sorted my own accommodation down the road from your hotel. And yeah, not only did I get to go to a very special gig, but I built a special friendship and met your brother James, who again is a very close friend now. So it was already a special gig, but made even more special to me personally. I have a lot of memories of that night. First of all, what I can only describe as a once in a lifetime for me was no phones allowed. I'm guilty myself of holding a phone up at a gig and recording a few bits and bobs, but just to go to a gig and experience no phones, we had to put them in them sealed pockets and not see a phone in sight the whole gig was, once in a lifetime. That was a truly great moment. I remember Liam sounded fantastic that night, he really did. But I do remember Liam telling off his sound guys a lot. I even remember at one point he pulled them that much that he actually gave him a shout out to give him a bit of praise because of how much he'd been giving him a hard time. And my other memory from that night must be the stage setup. I'm sure at this point hopefully you can slide a photo in or something to explain it, because it'll be better than how I would, but the stage setup was brilliant. And obviously just a 1,000 people in such a small venue. Not many people get to say they've seen Liam in a small venue like that, so that was truly special for me. And to be fair to Liam, he sounded fantastic that night. Not a single issue with that. And it's definitely a nice feeling having the vinyl and being able to say I was there. My favourite song of that night was that song, Perfect. Easy one, that.
Right then folks, we'll dive into a track by track review now. We're going to do it in the order that they appear on here, the 10 tracks on here. I won't do it in the order it was actually performed, although I'll probably start rambling on during this review that it wasn't performed in this position and that sort of thing. So yeah, let's get into it. So the album opens with Wall of Glass, Liam's debut solo single, and it was actually the first song that was performed that night. So we're actually off how it actually started here. I don't know how they could have started with anything other than this. Anyway, right off the bat here, I'm going to be controversial because I know I'm in the minority here, but I don't like this song. I've never cared for this song. I think it's massively overrated. Here we go. I don't like this song, personally. It's not even the best song on As You Were. In fact, it's the only song I think that's made the album off As You Were, and probably of all the songs performed, it was the worst song from As You Were. So why the hell this one was left on, I don't know, but there we go. Actually, I do know why it was, because it's a popular song and most people like it. I'm just in the minority. But yeah, it's a decent performance, to be fair to it. I do prefer this version of the song to the record, to the version on As You Were, the original version. Yeah, works decent enough acoustically, surprisingly. So thankfully a better song comes along next. Some might say an Oasis classic, which was not the second song performed that night. This actually came about halfway through the set, if I remember rightly. The second song was actually Bold, but as I mentioned, it's not made the album. Anyway, yes, this is an Oasis classic. It went down an absolute treat. As I mentioned, the crowd has been turned down, but that night you couldn't hear Liam singing this because the crowd were that loud. It's a brilliant song, it's a brilliant performance. Liam is on top form here, his voice is well and truly recovered. He's hitting all these high notes. I mean, towards the end of Oasis, there's no way he'd have been able to sing this song like he can here. So yeah, some might say brilliant performance, fantastic rendition here. Third on the album is Now That I've Found You, which wasn't third that night, but there we go. I'll stop going on about this, shall I? Yes, but this was definitely the first of the new songs he played that night. So by this point, as I mentioned, Why Me, Why Not hadn't been released, so any of the new songs with the exception of Once, or any of the songs I should say that were on Why Me, Why Not with the exception of Once, none of us had heard in that room, so it went dead silent at this point because no one knew the song. But of all the new songs that night, this was probably the one that impressed me the most. I really enjoyed this one. And yeah, Liam does a good job here. The performance is very good. It's not that dissimilar really from the actual record of it on Why Me, Why Not. So yeah, decent enough, good performance. I really like this one. So next on the album comes One of Us, which as mentioned with the previous song, this hadn't been released by the time this gig happened, but I'm pretty sure this was the next single from the album. I think it maybe came out about a fortnight later. Anyway, as with Wall of Glass, I don't like this song. I have never liked this song. Even the night I was at the gig, I thought, nah, it's not very good, that song. The thing I don't like about this song is it's very cringe, and that's saying something, me calling things cringe. Yeah, I just find it very contrived, I think is the right word for it. Liam didn't say anything from what I can remember that night about the song before or after it, but I seem to remember afterwards the song, either saying to me, mate, I'm my brother, one of the two. That's definitely about Noel, that song. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit irrelevant now because they're back together. Hey. But at that point, it was like, it's boring this. Come on, change the record, man. So yeah, One of Us, I mean, the strings, I think this is the first time on the album that strings appear properly. And they sound decent enough, but the song itself's crap, so it don't matter how great your strings sound. If your song's crap, then I'm sorry, it's not going to work. So closing out side one of the vinyl, we have another Oasis classic, Stand By Me. As I mentioned earlier in the video, in the actual gig itself, this was in the encore. It was the second last song performed overall, song 14 of 15. Yeah, here it's song 5. Don't know why it's been moved so much earlier on. But anyway, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the first time Liam ever performed Stand By Me post Oasis, so it'll be about the first time since 2001, I think, since he last played this song. So yeah, it went down a storm. Everybody was raring to go for this song. It was probably one of the loudest songs that night. Yeah, a highlight of the gig. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed this song. And the orchestra on here sounds absolutely fantastic. It is a fantastic rendition of the song. And the way Liam is singing this song, he sounds like he did around the Shoulder of Giants era. So as he sings it on Familiar to Millions, really, he kind of sounds like that version of himself again. Thank God he recovered his voice, eh? Alright then folks, off comes the vinyl, flip it over, needle back on, and greeting you opening up side 2 is Sad Song, which from what I can remember, I think was the first Oasis song that was performed that night. And speaking of first times, this is the first time Liam has ever sung this song, because obviously the record is sung by Noel. Now I love Sad Song, but I've got to be honest with you, Noel sings it better. Of all the Oasis songs that are out there, I don't know why Liam decided to pick on this one. I don't know if he just did it to annoy Noel and sing a one that Noel sung, because that's the kind of guy he is, and probably Noel will do something similar, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of songs he didn't do. I mean, I'm Out of Time, one of Liam's own songs, would be fantastic here with an orchestra, rather than Sad Song, which Liam never even sang. Yeah, he took it upon himself to sing this one, and he doesn't do a bad job. I just think Noel sings it better, because the Sad Song itself is a sad song, and because Noel wrote it, he can associate himself with the lyrics better than Liam can. He can get the emotion out better than Liam can with songs like this. And Noel just sounds sad when he sings it. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to hear Liam sing it. Obviously we've had the demo come out last year on the Definitely Maybe 30th anniversary edition of Liam singing it, which sounds really good. That sounds better than this version, to be honest, because it's 90s Liam. But nevertheless, this is a decent enough performance. I just think Noel sings this song better personally. I don't know why Liam decided to do this one. So Cast No Shadow comes along next, and for this song I was actually up on my mate's shoulder. During the second verse, I think it was, Liam actually gave me a nod, so that was cool. Anyway, Cast No Shadow, it is perfect for this sort of environment with an intimate gig, strings. It's just designed for this sort of thing. So yeah, of all the Oasis songs, this was possibly the best one, I would say, that night, because the strings just take it to another level. Yeah, Liam sang it really good. Really enjoyed Cast No Shadow, brilliant song. And the crowd again, very, very loud. Could hardly hear Liam sing it, but great to hear him sing it on here and hear what he actually sounded like. But yeah, great song, great performance, great rendition. So next up, folks, we're diving back in with another solo song, Once, which I'm pretty sure was released maybe a day or two before this gig. So it was still a pretty new song, and yet the way people were singing this, the way the crowd sang this, you'd have thought it was an Oasis classic. by far that night, this was the solo song that went down the best. It was just a fantastic performance, this. When I listen to Once, it sounds a lot better on this album, to be honest, than it does on the record. The strings are fantastic on here. It was only on the chorus where the crowd was singing their hearts out. The verses on this song are shit. Let's not beat around the bush. I mean, clean the pool, send the kids to school, all that, it's shite. But the chorus on this song is just fantastic. It's like an Oasis classic, the chorus of this song. And yeah, the crowd were giving it their all. I really like this song's chorus. Yeah, great song. It was a great rendition. Yeah, one of the highlights of the gig, this one. It's a great song, Once. So the penultimate track on the album is called Gone, which is a song I always forget exists. It is gone out my memory, this one, evidently, most of the time. Now, from what I can remember, this was the song that closed the main set, I think. So Liam performed this one, and he left the stage, and he came back on and did Stand By Me and Champagne Supernova. But Gone, yeah, it's decent enough. Like I say, it's a song I always forget about. I don't know why this one got left on and Why Me, Why Not got taken off, to be honest, because if I had to pick between the two, I think I'd have gone for Why Me, Why Not being the song that got left on. But I think this might be the only time Gone has ever been performed live, so there's a positive. Strings sound very good on here, so yeah, decent enough song, but it's nothing special. And finally here we have Champagne Supernova, the closing track of the album and what was actually the last track of the gig. So at least the first song and the last song on the album are the correct ones from the gig. Anyway, if you put a gun against my head, I would probably say that Champagne Supernova is my favourite Oasis song. But the thing I love most about Champagne Supernova is the guitars on it, and this version completely removes it. Instead, it's just a piano and some very subtle strings. I'm not going to lie, I did think this on the night as well. I wish this had been a full band performance rather than just a piano and some strings. Yeah, it was a little bit disappointing to miss the guitar on this one, but it's still a great version of the song, don't get me wrong. Liam sounds absolutely fantastic on here. Just wish there was some guitar on here, but even then I suppose it'd be an acoustic guitar, and I don't know if that solo would work. Imagine that as an acoustic guitar solo, that'd be pretty cool actually, yeah. So yeah, closes out the album nicely. It's a nice enough rendition, but there's absolutely zero reason you would ever listen to this over the record of it. And I imagine a live album will be coming from the current Oasis tour, so I don't know why you would listen to this version over that version that will be coming next year probably. We'll see. But that's just me speculating. So anyway, we shall conclude the video here, shall we? So yes, Liam Gallagher's MTV Unplugged album. Like I say, this is an album that I don't really listen to all that often for personal reasons, just because I was at the gig, as I've mentioned once or twice. And because I was there, I want to keep it as a memory in my head of how I remember the gig. I don't want to be reminded of it via an album that's been all polished and sort of, I don't know if it's been tweaked with at all, but it's definitely more polished than the performance was. I'd rather remember it how I seen it that night. So that's the reason why I don't listen to this album that much. But I'm aware I'm in the minority here, so for the vast amount of people listening to this, it's a brilliant album. And if I hadn't been at this gig, I would be coming on here and saying that this is a fantastic album. It's probably the best thing Liam has put out post-Oasis. Yeah, it's better than most just normal solo albums. I think, has he done any other live? Oh, he's done Nebworth as a live album, hasn't he? So, yeah, it's decent enough anyway. So I'll conclude the video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. There'll be an Oasis video coming very soon after this one. Yeah, it should be after this one, depending on when this one goes up. Maybe it'll be before this one, but if it all goes to plan, it'll be after this one. Where I'll be talking about my experience of attending multiple gigs on the Oasis Live 25 tour. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on a future video. Do take care. Ta-ra!